and welcome to this week's episode of The Buzz. We are your hosts, Scott Tatey and Megan Miller, here to talk another week of entertainment.
There's a lot going on. Now, one of the things I'm excited about this Tuesday, the Season 2 debut of Outsiders. That's the WGN America show, filmed in Pittsburgh, Monroeville, Millville, West Newton, a little bit in the Strip District. I don't know if you ever saw it. Really, it's kind of like Sons of Anarchy, very dark, kind of twisted kind of show. Not American Horror Story twisted, but just an interesting show.
Very gritty is kind of the word that I have never watched it. I do know that it is WGN's highest rated original programming, right?
That is correct. And the whole premise, there's this group of people who live up, it's set in the Appalachians of Kentucky, and they're these people called the Ferals who live up on the hills, and they're off the grid. They don't want to be dealing with the townsfolk and electricity. Every once in a while they come into town and kind of raid the convenience stores or whatever to get some supplies, but other than that, they just want to be left alone. But here comes the big coal company, wants to take over their mountain, and you can imagine the feud that starts from that. So I had a chance to interview one of the new stars, Tina Alexis Allen. That was a story this past Sunday in the Times, and it was really fun talking to her. And she says that they really enjoy filming in Pittsburgh. They love there's a lot of local cast and crew, a lot of extras. We have a woman from Baden who's one of the regulars, and she said they're just getting a real kick out of being in Pittsburgh. It's just been a very accommodating place to film.
Yeah, and I kind of hope between this and then the upcoming series Mindhunter, I'm hoping that'll be more of Pittsburgh will be more of a place for not just movies, because it does pretty well with movies as well, but actual series.
Also, that ABC show Downward Dog. It's coming out this summer, and the fact that it's a summer show makes you think it's probably not going to last, but it filmed in Pittsburgh, so yeah, 3 network shows filmed in our region last year. It's a cool thing.
That is cool. And then that starts on Tuesday, right?
Yes.
Outsiders? 9 p.m.?
Yes. WGN America. They usually show twice the same night, so if you missed the first one, you can probably catch it the second.
Yeah, and then starting on Thursday, Pump Boys and Dinettes opens at the Cielo Cabaret Theater on Penn Avenue.
Read your preview story on that. Well, tell the listeners and viewers what they can expect.
Well, I talked to David Toole, who is one of the lead characters, Jim, in the new show. It opens on Thursday and runs through the middle of April, and it's just this country rock type of musical, and it's really cool because the Cabaret does a lot of different shows. It's a smaller, more intimate venue, and they have longer runs of shows than other traditional, like the Benedum and Heinz Hall and stuff. But I like it because they get some very different shows in there. They just closed The Toxic Avenger. Before that, they had First Date. There was another one too, the 39 Steps. Yeah, so they have they take on some very ambitious projects as well. But this one is just this country rock type of musical. He called it kind of like a modern folk, and it's really cool that the actors are also the band. They're going to be playing their own instruments, so they're going to be acting, singing, performing, you name it. And it sounds cool. There's the Pump Boys who are at this gas station off of Highway 57, and then right across the way, the road is the diner that they, are friends with 2 of the waitresses who are sisters.
How convenient, the pretty waitresses right across the street.
Yeah, so it sounds very very rom-com like. Of course, there's a little bit of a love story in there, and yeah, but it sounds really cool. It's I believe it is the Pittsburgh premiere of Pump Boy and Dinettes. And
Cielo Cabaret, a very cozy place to see a show. I mean, it's a big room, but the way it's spaced out in the tables, you feel like the actors are almost performing in your living room, I think. So
yeah, it's very. I mean, they do a lot with that space, though. I mean, I've seen different. I've seen quite a few shows there now, and the most recent one, Toxic Avenger, they kind of had the half of the stage going all the way up the side on the one side of the theater. And what's cool for this show, David had mentioned that they're kind of recrafting their menu a little bit to kind of go with the Americana, home, comfort food type thing to go with the show. So I think that's pretty cool.
Get some good cocktails in the bar.
Yes. So that is opening on Thursday, and our preview story, my interview with David Toole, is up online now at timesonline.com/entertainment.
Awesome. Concert scene's finally starting to heat up. It's been a slow start, but we have the first sold-out show of the year at PPG Paints Arena, and that's 21 Pilots on January 27th. I gave them a rave review. The show they did last year outdoors at Stage AE, that was for about 5,500 people. We'll see how they do for 13,000 or so. One of the things last year, they were very, they were in the crowd. At one point, the drummer was actually kind of crowd surfing while drumming. People were holding him on this platform, and then It's basically a two-man band, but they were all over the place. So I'm wondering how that's going to translate to the larger stage at PPG Paints Arena. There's probably more pressure for them to be more of a spectacle, so it's going to be interesting.
Now, is that a younger crowd?
Yes.
Okay, because I was going to say it's a Friday night show, so they don't have to go to school tomorrow, but sometimes people don't have to go to work the next day either, which is kind of nice.
It's younger, but not teeny bopper by any sense. It's sort of in I'd say the 18 to 23 would be the target market. 21 Pilots themselves, they're hard to describe. It's rock, it's a little bit of alternative, some hip hop. They do a little bit of everything, but just a very engaging band. And I saw them actually open a show at Alder Bar way back for Neon Trees, and I thought they were great then. So I'm not surprised to see how far they've come in a short period of time. And this is a big test, though. Doing the hockey arena.
No, I have a question. Do you remember last year? I remember walking back to the car from, I can't remember which show it was. Was it after Beyonce or was it somewhere else? They were already camped out. Was that
for Stage 8? Yeah.
Yeah, was that for 21 Pilots or was that a different band?
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, I remember walking
yes.
walking back and it's like, why are there already people outside? And then we realized, the next night it is 21 Pilots. So there were tents and they were lined up on the sidewalk. That's dedication.
And we're talking general admission, so they were camped out just to get a little bit closer to the stage. It wasn't like they were reserving a seat, so that's a pretty hardcore fan base there.
Which meanwhile, at Stage 8 outdoors, there really isn't a bad place to stand. I mean, it's more making sure you're not near an irritating concert goer not being able to see. So that's kicking off a weekend of entertainment on Friday night, and then there are a couple options that you can do on Saturday. Drinking Partners, the podcast, Dave Bracey and Ed Bailey are hosting a new event at the Contra Theater in Cranberry.
I always say if you only have time for one podcast, listen to Drinking Partners or us.
Yeah, if you have time for two podcasts, so that's what we should be saying.
Yeah, you mentioned Dave Bracey, of course, Beaver comedian, and just a hilarious guy. His partner Ed Bailey, they are a delight. I got to be their guest once, and we had Day, of course, as our guests from Wooly Bullies, and just hilarious guys. And they're getting out to a lot of places. They were doing bars and that kind of scene. Now you mentioned the Contra Theater, so they're really taking off. City Paper named him the best podcast or something in Pittsburgh, so it's really been fun to watch their rise as well. Yeah,
and they're going to be doing this the last Saturday of every month for the whole year, I believe. It's just going to be, they're billing it as kind of an epic night of comedy, and they're the two hosts of it, and there's different, I think there are drinks involved, BYOB and that kind of thing, and they've been publicizing that a lot on both on their podcast and their website. So it sounds like a cool way to spend the end of January.
They get some good guests, and what I can vouch for is they really relax you to the point a few minutes into the interview, you kind of let your guard down and you start saying what you really think, and they're very good interviewers that way. Afterwards, I was like, ooh, I hope I didn't say anything.
Forget there's a microphone there.
But yeah, you definitely got to check those guys out.
Cool. And then the other option, it's a completely different option. I was going to call him Jesse Springfield. Rick Springfield and Richard Marks will be at the Bannerman Center on Saturday night.
He is Jesse's girl, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I interviewed Richard Marks. We had a story in the Sunday Time. Oh, actually, it's going to run this weekend.
Yeah, right? It's going to be up on our website later this week.
Wait till you read it. I can tell you. He was a surprisingly, a little bit of a feisty interview. I mean, very nice to me, but he had some very straight, direct, forward thoughts. Of course, he's married to Daisy Fuentes now, former MTV VJ, and he talks a bit about that. Talks about how he started with a very interesting song, "Don't Mean Nothing," and how when that came out in '87, radio programmers were like, "Well, we don't know if we can play this. It's a song that's kind of cynical and feisty," but he was like, "Yeah," and it worked out for him. Of course, then he went completely adult contemporary and a lot of ballads and. Including a song you danced to once. Go ahead,
yes, Right Here Waiting for You. I remember having this cotton candy pink taffeta ballet costume, and that was our spring finale. And no, we do not have video or photos of that, so let's not even ask. But yeah, so that's anytime somebody says Richard Marks, that is the only thing that comes to my mind, for better or worse, I guess.
I kind of think of his late '80s mullet.
Okay.
He had a good one though. It wasn't Billy Ray Cyrus. It was more volume to it.
Yeah, this would have been like right on the cusp of like 1990-ish, so.
It was like a poof mullet, but it worked for him. And I had a friend who kind of looked like him, and he used to get a lot of girls' phone numbers, so.
All right, whatever works,
it
right?
paid to look like Richard back in the day.
And then on Sunday, the Times has an event coming up, the Times Bridal Fair. It's an annual event at the Seven Oaks Country Club.
I know we've been promoting that very heavily. They always count on a good turnouts, and this time as well.
I believe this is like the 16th annual or something like that. We have a bunch of information on our website at timesonline.com. Ticket information, who the vendors are, that kind of stuff. So if you're looking at planning a wedding, it might be the place to go.
Definitely.
So, and we will be right back.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Buzz. Scott Tady and Megan Miller talking entertainment to you. Talk about a couple TV shows now. One that CMT just picked up, and it is their highest rated show that they've been running. It's a show we've talked about many times, Nashville. What do you think? Yeah,
I feel like we kind of need to talk about it since we were so upset when ABC canceled it, and then we're like, well, what's the fate? Is somebody else going to bring it back? And then CMT finally did at the start of this year. I caught 3 of the 4 episodes so far, and I like it. It's typical. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's any better or any worse than what it was on ABC. It's very dramatic. It's very all over the place a little bit. It's a soap opera, essentially, with some country music and, primetime slot. But I like that CMT is trying something different, at least.
It's doing better than I thought on CMT. I kind of wonder, that's a station you just think of country music videos or, they have some weird reality shows. So this was a drama that was on a network, but it seems to be doing well. I've tuned in a little bit to last night's episode, only for a couple minutes. Hayden Panettiere, I guess her character is still, she was in a plane crash and she's still struggling to walk or whatever, and it was kind of really heavy, but I was hoping to catch a good song, and instead it was kind of a serious moment. So
yeah, they're definitely into a lot of serious topics at the moment. That is being one, the cliffhanger, and then the cliffhanger of, I guess that was season 5 finale, was she was on a plane and the plane got lost, and we're like, okay, well, now we don't even know if the show's coming back, but they picked up right where it left off. And to CMT's credit, I will say, it hasn't, I expect this is probably the best the season is going to be, and it's going to start to maybe go a little downhill, as series often do, 5th, 6th season in. But I like that they kind of kept with the tone. They kind of kept on the same pace, the same, of everything of how it was on ABC. So it's not a complete, 180 of what you were used to watching and what you're watching now.
Connie Britton's always fun to watch no matter what.
Always. Yeah, so she's still, the main character. They're starting to go with a stalker storyline though, and I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if you caught any of that in the most recent episode, but
is it the young guy who's kind of working with Connie Britton?
Yeah, there are 2 guys that it could technically be, but I think it's the one working in for her Highway 65 Records record label. So I don't know, but it's pretty good so far. I do predict that, how on ABC there were a lot of Good Morning America and Robin Roberts and a lot of appearances. I'm assuming they're just going to be swapped out with CMT.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it kind of makes sense that CMT would be covering the red carpet for something like that on a fictional show. So
it is a country network. It's a show about country music, so that does work.
Yeah, and then the other show that I feel like we were both really excited about when it came out, and it kind of has dropped a little in interest.
As more people have caught on to it. Yes,
I would agree with that. This Is Us on NBC came back earlier, a couple weeks ago now, and we're supposed to get a pretty good storyline starting next week, or this coming week.
Yeah, Jack, the main character, one of the main characters anyway, we already know from flashbacks and flash forwards that his character has died. When he's shown on TV, it's taking place in 1979, 1980, but the big question is, how does he die and why? Because he's a beloved character, probably the most popular, or one of the most, and so it's going to be very interesting how ABC or how the network portrays this. They got to give it a good storyline. If it's something that's going to make people mad, I think by droves people are going to turn off the show.
They're going to lose followers.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very sensitive topic. How do you kill off a character who everyone loves? I'm very eager to see how they do it.
Yeah, he's one of the most loved / least irritating on that, because there are some. It's funny, when the show, the first episode, it was just almost, I don't want to call it groundbreaking, but it was something that you really haven't seen before. The hook and the premise of the show, it was really clever and really engaging, and then it kind of has just kind of settled into a typical family drama. Still better than probably 90% of what's on television, but it lost its edge a little bit. And I feel like everybody's really into this now. But then when you go to criticize it, people look at you like you're kind of funny. Like I said it in the newsroom the other day. I'm like, well, I don't think that episode was that great. And you might as well thought I was saying something awful about a golden retriever puppy.
Yeah, the bandwagon's rolling pretty hard now.
Yeah, it definitely is. I like it. I still enjoy watching it, but I think for as good as it started, there are some really uneven acting and uneven storylines.
Even the dialogue, this last episode was pretty much entirely set in 1980, and some of Mandy Moore's lines were straight out of now. She was like, right? That kind of thing, and people didn't say that in 1980, or in that context, you know what I mean? And then it's set in Pittsburgh, and sometimes I read too closely into that, but the scene where he's walking through a 1980 grocery store and there's beer behind him. You can't buy beer in Pennsylvania now, in 1980, so little things like that, but yeah, I'm still rooting for it, and we'll see how this plays out, this big storyline. Maybe the show takes a leap up again.
Yeah, I'm assuming this one story that I read, courtesy of E! Had said that they're kind of going to give you a little bit of glimmer, but I don't think it's going to solve it this coming week.
They got a cliffhanger that.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be the season 1 finale. That would be my guess. So I don't know, but yeah, it's still a good show, but I'm hoping it gets a little better.
It's better than most network shows.
Yeah,
but
that is true.
That's also saying something about most network shows.
Yeah, I think we're criticizing other network shows than, This Is Us. But so are you ready for this week's Love It or Loathe It?
I am.
Yeah?
But why don't you start us off?
All right. I have a loathe, but I also can find a positive within the loathe.
Well done.
Can you follow that? The country music series Mega Ticket lineup was announced last week, and we went from 2016 had 10 shows, 9 headliners, but 10 shows. Luke Bryan had a double bill, to 3. And I am kind of loathing the lineup this year. It's a lineup, all 3 of the headliners we have seen time and time again on the Mega Ticket alone and elsewhere. It's Luke Bryan, Florida Georgia Line, and Dierks Bentley. Dierks Bentley actually kicked off the 2016 season at then First Niagara Pavilion. Now it's KeyBank Pavilion.
2 years in a row, he's the kickoff. And yeah, I agree. From going from 10 to 3, and they're not bringing in anyone new. Well, what about Chris Stapleton? What about Miranda Lambert? There has to be other acts they could be bringing in. It also kind of worries me that some of the bands are flat out skipping Pittsburgh. Jason Aldean is always on the bill. He's not coming. He announced his tour. No Pittsburgh. Lenny Antebellum, no Pittsburgh. So it makes you wonder the viability of the pavilion, because country music has been their bread and butter for many years now. If they're only booking 3 shows, well, I mean, Zach Brown is not on the series. It's a 4th, but still, I kind of wonder.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, we've both been to that pavilion in the last couple years, and almost shocking how bare it is. Like, I went to Kelly Clarkson a couple years ago, and there were only 6,000 people there. There have been several other ones where they actually closed the lawn and, moved you up. Sometimes they were citing, bad conditions for the lawn or rain or whatever, but sometimes they just, were moving you right up. But the country ones always seem to draw, because I know I went there one day and there were 7,000 people, and then the next time it took me, an hour and a half to get out of the lot because there were 20,000 people there. Luke Bryan is one that has always sold out his back-to-back nights. I'm surprised he's not doing 2 this year. Mm-hmm. That is interesting to me. But yeah, so if the country music ticket can't sustain, 20,000 people, what hope do some of the, classic rockers have? I'm
going to make it a point in the next a couple months to see how other pavilions are doing, like Blossom and Cleveland. Are they booking a similar number of shows as they used to? Is this a trend nationally that the sheds aren't as popular as they used to be, or is it a local thing? Do people have some frustrations with KeyBank Pavilion? I'm curious what the factor is.
Yeah, now, the one positive light that I can find in this, we were just talking last week how the Mega Ticket was going to be announced, and it's the same every year. And yes, we kind of have more of the same this year, but I like that it's not the exact same 9 artists. At least it's pared down. If they can't get a lineup that is at least a little bit different or diverse, at least they're paring it down.
Yeah, I had to rub my eyes and double check twice. No Brad Paisley, no Toby Keith. I think that's a record that they're not coming. They're here every year.
I forgot about Brad Paisley, but that was my first thought. Like, Toby Keith isn't touring, and yeah, When we got the announcement, I actually thought, oh, are they rolling it out this year? Because there were only 3, but then I did the math on the ticket prices, and it's a pretty good deal. If you don't mind going in the lawn, I think it's $75 for all 3, so that's $25 a ticket. You can't get a lawn ticket for that cheap anymore. So that's a cool thing. And we have all the information up on our website about, when tickets go on sale and all of that stuff. But
I'll go along with that. And the only other thing I'll load is this is our last video version.
It is.
Still doing the audio, still doing the podcast, but as far as having that camera right there filming us in action, this is the final episode for that.
Yes, it is. Like you said, you can still listen and subscribe each week, either at timesonline.com/podcasts or iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio by searching the Beaver County Times. So we're not going away completely, but you can't watch us anymore talk about entertainment. So
we'll still be fired up and ready to tell you what's going on in Beaver County, Pittsburgh, entertainment, and it's getting to be a good time, too. More shows, Oscars, lots to talk about.
Yeah, the nominations for Oscar comes out on Tuesday, so we will definitely be talking about that next week, along with Something Rotten will be making its Pittsburgh debut. So yeah, until then, you can follow the latest in entertainment news at timesonline.com/entertainment, and you can follow us on Twitter.
I'm at Scott Hady.
And I'm at Maggie E. Thanks for joining us.